Well, I was going to say good evening, everybody, but having somebody from 8 hours away in Los Angeles means I'm going to have to say good day. So that's absolutely wonderful. And thank you so much indeed for joining us today, which is the second Wednesday of July, and it's our second Wednesday coaching support group. Now, this Noble Manhattan coaching support group is a special subject one, I suppose, and we deal particularly with coaching which involves adolescents and children, but invariably there is some adult stuff here as well. That doesn't mean to say that Bob is X-rated. That just means to say that there's a lot that that can be involved all the way around. So tonight's subject, artificial intelligence. Am I going to be replaced by a robot? Some people would probably hope that I would be replaced by a robot, but never mind. But this is obviously one of these things. Artificial intelligence, AI, has come in big style. And we've known about it for quite some time, let's be honest, but now it has hit the mainstream. And love it or hate it, we've got to deal with it. And one of the best ways of dealing with it is actually knowing about it. Well, we're very fortunate tonight to have Bob Snarey, with whom I've been working for a number of years, who is a strong proponent of how good AI is. And he's encouraged me to use it. And I have to say that it cuts corners. It's wonderful. It shaves hours off my day. But it has its limitations at the moment. And also, there are scare stories around as to what AI can do when we're just not controlling it properly. So the more we know about it, the more we can control it, the more we can be aware, the more we can help our children and all those other children that we come across in our everyday lives and our jobs to use it, to understand it, to be aware of it, and so that it doesn't bite them, because sure enough, it will. So Bob's been working on AI, and he's got a special project that he's been working on as well, which is why he's really got involved in it. And he keeps on telling me how great it is and things like that. And I now believe him. But without further ado, I shall introduce you to Bob Snarey. Bob, it's lovely to see you today. And we're going to tap your brain about artificial intelligence, AI, and how it can help us. But obviously, we'll also look at a few pitfalls and
Sure.
see how we can get out of them.
Sure.
So,
right.
First and foremost, Bob, how, in a big picture, is it going to support us in the education world?
Well, as an overall, I would say that if you have any, and this just doesn't apply to education, it applies to us in general, that if you can train somebody to do what you do, that is heavily text orientated and repetitive, if you can train somebody to do that for you, then AI can do it for you. So and that can be a massive emails coming in every day. You have to look at all these emails, you have to reply to them, frequently asked questions. So this is what I'm working with charities, trying to free them up from there, so that they can get on with delivering what they're good at delivering, and taking away the burden of the admin. And this applies across all industries, providing you know how to teach somebody to do it, providing it is repetitive and you can quantify what it is. Then if a person can do it, if you're satisfied a person can do it, and the other caveat is that it's text heavy, then AI can do it for you. They can do it for you now. I'm doing it for charities now. It works. Yeah? And these are being built everywhere, by everybody. Now, more specifically in AI, there's a spate of education AI. One I looked at today is called Eduaid, EDUAIDE.ai. And that is that's interesting because that's a teacher's assistant. So whatever you want from a teacher's assistant, it's there. So jobs are changing. People being will be deployed more towards their own skill set and away from repetitive tasks. So at the moment anyway, repetitive tasks can be eliminated by AI. Also, as I know, the way we use it, it can be a great start for something. If you want to write an article about something, you can start it off. It can write in your own style. How this equates to education, I believe, is that things will have to change. We'll have to change because students are using it. They're already using it, and the way education is at the moment will have to change. Otherwise, and no one's going to do any learning. Everybody's just going to use AI to do it, unless you ban it, and you just have a class where people have got no access to the internet and they have to sit down and write. So, but what we have, the situation we have really, this is going to be contentious, but school is boring. It's content overload. Tell me everything I just told you. It's that kind of style, and do students get real skills or competencies from it? So this is where AI can come in. We're moving away from the fact base. What's the point of knowing when the Battle of Hastings was, or when the American Civil War was? Do they need to know that? They need to know the consequences, what happened of it, and form their own opinions. Do they need to learn all this by rote? These are the questions. These are the questions that we have to ask of AI. In terms of how it could be used in education, it can be used for personalized learning. So it can analyze vast amounts of student data, and it can create a personalized learning path for individual students. So it can adapt to their strengths and their weaknesses, their learning styles, and tailor content and feedback to suit them. So students end up learning at their own pace as opposed to the pace of the class, and hopefully that would enhance their understanding and even their engagement. There's AI tutoring systems as well that can be built, and so virtual tutors, so without teachers at all, and they offer explanations, they answer questions and guide students. Obviously, the parameters have to be put there, but it's quite possible to be taught. I learned Swedish in my youth, and I've let it drop. So since 91, I've got none of the technical words. So all the internet and everything, I don't know what they are. I can speak Swedish, but I don't know these words. And AI is teaching me every day what I need to know, and it's got a program for me. And I'm getting new words every day, and it asks me about something, puts it into context, and asks me a question. And it's and I've taught it to teach me. So I know that's possible. I know it's happening. You can do automated grading through AI. Data analysis and predictive analytics are all there. It's all capable now. Content creation, of course. It assists teachers with their content creation. And then another really interesting part, of course, is virtual reality and augmented reality. So with headsets on, you can have students walking down the streets of Pompeii. They can go into a baker's. They can buy a loaf of bread. They can go sit by a fountain with a virtual piece of bread. They can interact with the people there. All of this is now within our realm. And they got augmented reality, which already exists in a lot of cities. I know in London, you can do it on your phone. I'm sure you can do it with a headset as well. Where the London Wall is, the Roman London Wall, it will take you back to Roman times. So you just hold your phone up, and immediately you can see what that wall looked like in Roman times. So some of the great gates you can see there, and you can see Roman soldiers stood in front of it, and it puts history into context. So that's a great use of AI, and that's available to us now. But really, I think it's just important to say that it needs to be a complement to human teachers and not a replacement, because educators play the crucial role and provide guidance, mentorship, socio-emotional support to students. And AI can't fully replicate that. So this, I think, is really important. I don't think a child is going to be too engaging if they've got 4 or 5 hours in front of a computer, be it a talking one or a talking person. I think it's different.
Well,
So,
certainly, sorry to butt in. So the idea of the going back in history, if you like, certainly appeals to me, because I would, one of the subjects I hated at school was history. I had to write essays. I hated writing essays. I was actually quite good at dates, but the idea of actually being able to effectively to see what was going on would be really, really appealing. But so let's go back to essays, because of course these have been in the press a lot, that the students can just ask what ChatGPT or one of the other AI systems to write them a 3,000-word essay on a particular subject. How is that going to, that could be done in, dare I say, seconds, but certainly minutes. How is that going to affect, that you see, how is AI going to affect this sort of the teaching, the examination, perhaps, in that way?
Yeah, well, it has to change, doesn't it? You can't have the child doing that. In essence, if something's written by AI can dictate, can detect that it's written by AI. Okay, so this is really quite interesting, because of the likelihood of one letter being followed by one word being followed by another word, and those percentages all add up. And that leads you to say that a computer wrote it because it is too precise and it doesn't have any of the nuance of somebody writing. But I mean, you can use for people who are not in the UK, we have a dreadful national newspaper here called The Sun. And I had the misfortune of visiting there once, and it's just a scandal rag, and written in 5-foot letters all along the editorial wall is, "Remember, they are only 12." And they're referring to the writing style that their audience has the intellect of a 12-year-old, and they should write accordingly. Likewise, with ChatGPT, you can, of course, say, write it, I'm a 15-year-old and I'm writing about it, write it how a 15-year-old writes. You can also give it a sample of your writing. So you could give it the previous, something you wrote last year, you can upload it. This is my writing style. Okay, and this is on the Romans. Now write one on the Tudors, and it will follow your style, and it won't be detectable, because it learns. It's a language. It becomes a language learning model. Learns how you structure. As long as it's got enough information, and you ask it, have you got enough information? If it says yes, you can go ahead. You won't really detect it. You can suspect, but you won't know. So you either have children writing in an environment where they don't have access to it, or you change the education model, because you're not going to stop it.
Okay, but you've just also said that AI can detect AI.
It can in its simplest form. If I was to ask it now, say to summarize what we're talking about, it's likely that could be construed as could be detected as AI, because of the way it's structured, because I haven't told it how to structure it. So it structures it in pure English and how English should be written, and none of us write like that. Okay, it's got a tendency to be over flowery as well, and to use adjectives that we wouldn't normally use, and not in everyday usage, and that's what it will pick up on.
Yeah, certainly the having used AI as you and I have, it's great for a first start. It takes me hours, because I'm one of these people who doesn't particularly enjoy writing. And so therefore, trying to write a blog or write an essay or something like that, I put it off and put it off. But if I've actually got something to work on, then it's fine. And perhaps it can take me about 15, 20 minutes, whereas otherwise it would take me 2 to 3 hours to sort of change it into my style, perhaps.
Mm.
Now, obviously, others can do that as well within the education, outside of the education, and things like that. But the information we're beginning to get is that we're going back away from coursework and further into exams.
Okay.
And any coursework perhaps would actually have to be sort of classroom based, write it in an hour type work, rather than take it home and do it there.
Yeah. Well, research, of course, now you've got ChatGPT-4, which is connected to the internet, so it can just run off. It can just run off and do your research for you.
Excellent. But
Great.
that brings another aspect to it. And of course, we all now know about fake news.
Mm.
So how easy is it for ChatGPT, for example, to go off on a tangent and actually bring in stuff that doesn't exist, stuff that is untrue?
It already does. If you asked it to do a dissertation, for example, it will give fake references.
Okay.
ChatGPT will make them up. Okay, it will make up. We did an experiment. My other half is an artist, and she's writing a book, and she wanted some quotes, and we asked it for some quotes from famous artists, and it actually made up some quotes, and actually made up a couple of artists. So it wanted to be overly helpful, and attributed it, and it gave asked for some citations as well, and just made them up, on the fly. So this is another way where the students are being caught, because if someone looks, they're not there. So that's a worry. I mean, ChatGPT GPT-4 was taken offline last week because people were using it for research, and it found a way to break the firewalls of all the newspapers that charge for their content. It's I want that content, and it's actually a reasonably simple process if you know how, and of course it does know how, and it broke the firewall and would give you the article. So if you wanted the article that's behind the firewall in the Daily Telegraph today, it was quite capable of going in and getting it for you. And had to take it offline while they fix that problem, obviously. So it's coming up with things all the time. You go back to fake news. I mean, deep fake is scary. Deep fake now, you've got it where if they've demonstrated this, get a child's voice, and they don't need very much. They just need a sentence of a child's voice, and that child can then phone the mother, okay, with a voice message, and say, "I need money now. I'm in a bit of a hole. Stick $500 or $100 or something into my account," and parents will do it because they're listening to a voicemail of their own child, which is completely made up. So expect plenty more of this. We are going to have to be a lot more diligent, and we're going to have to question everything.
Well, that's one reason why we chose AI to bring in on the coaching support group, because it is those very valuable things. And only last week in the UK press, we have basically a financial expert, Martin Lewis, and he has actually come out and said that there has been a video of apparently of him going around with totally fake information, which is a pure scam. And but if people trust the likes of Martin Lewis to give them that proper information, which they do, here is a scam route of they're getting huge amounts of money from people who believe that Martin Lewis told them to do it.
Mm.
that is worrying. That is, but that is another aspect, that the more we are aware of these things, the more we can, I suppose, we can look out for them.
I mean, there's enough video of you now, Ian, to have you say absolutely anything. If some absolute drivel.
Well, that's okay. So what's new there then?
Yeah.
Are we able to ask a question?
Yes.
Bob,
Yeah, Duncan, go ahead.
Yeah, may I please? Yeah, I was doing something yesterday, Bob, on ChatGPT, and it came back with me, or with an answer to me, and it said, "From my knowledge cutoff in September 2021,
Yeah,
the information I have is such and such."
Yeah.
Is that because I need to be paying a $20 a month to
No,
get up to date, or is that the way it normally works?
ChatGPT 3 is closed. It closed in 21 November 21. It closed off, and that's all the knowledge it has. There's ChatGPT 4, and that will connect you to the internet, and that has lots of little widgets that you can play with, lots of different aspects and different ways of getting the information you want, which will go off and click all the links you want and give you all the information back you want. But that's, I think it's $20, yeah, $20 a month for that. So what you've got there is ChatGPT 3. Yeah, it's closed off. Anything happened after that, it hasn't got it. So if you're using it to write sort of some kind of a legal, like a small legal agreement, like a tenancy or anything small like that, then it's probably advisable not to, because obviously legislations change quickly, so you'd need to get it checked. So that's why the 3 is a closed system.
Oh, brilliant.
The 4 is connected to the internet.
Okay, thanks a lot for that. Sorry for interrupting there.
Sorry.
It's absolutely fine. If anybody else has any questions, then obviously please just raise your hand or something like that. We can bring you in. That's not a problem at all. Let's open the floor and let's make it a discussion, because I'm sure that you guys out there have got some very valuable input to this. It may be that you have particular situations. It may be that you have an extra knowledge. And quick as a flash, Sonia.
Welcome everybody. Thank you for your everybody's contribution so far. I think the struggle for me is that there's so much information around AI that we can easily become distracted and quite overwhelmed by what we should be doing, whereas we have to really just focus on what we need it to do for us, because I think that there's so many different ways where, as you said, it's deep fake and it's very disturbing and it's very frightening, but then it takes away the good things that it does. And it's a bit like social media. Social media does good stuff, but if you're crazy, you know how to do crazy.
It can also be toxic, yes.
Yes. So I think one of my challenges with this is probably just because I know I still have to do the research, even though I use it. I'm very clear I still have to do the research. It's a nice start you off. Yeah,
the prompt has to be right.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm finding I'm struggling with the language. So I might say, write it in the tone of an inspirational coach or career coach, or write it in the same as a management leader. But then I keep thinking my language is still limited because I want it to jazz it up and make it a bit more challenging.
But I mean, you write down your keywords. What you want to say. Just put the keywords in. Put the keywords in, and ask ChatGPT to write the prompt that you need to get the answer you want.
Oh, well, thank you.
So I'm writing about this. Put the keywords in, and then ask it to write the prompt that I would need to ask you to do it. See if that works for you.
Love it.
No, an iterative process here.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I was to ask you this.
Yeah. Now our children are all over AI. They they sort of fully understand what it can do for them and how it can help them cut corners. But how are we going to help them detect, truth or lie?
We're going to have to rely on human oversight and intervention on this, and we're going to have to hope that these big tech giants just do as they're told, and that they're in a region of the world where they can be controlled, because we have to have human oversight. We have to have intervention, because otherwise it's bad for everybody.
Okay, but I can bring in a scary story. Rhonda, I see your hand. Hang on a minute. A scary story of an aggressive AI that was used basically in an airplane dogfight simulator. F6, one of the best F-16 pilots, was up against AI, and while the human pilot tried every move he thought he could make, and an awful lot that he didn't, he was as creative as he could be. AI, I won't say just knew how to challenge him, but the speed of thought of the AI aircraft was such that whatever he did, he could be outmaneuvered. Because of the speed of thought. And it wasn't a case of, I know that move, therefore I'm going to do this. It's just a case of, I can continue to watch what's happening so fast that I can still get into a shoot position.
Yeah.
And that, that sort of thing is worrying, because if that sort of thing falls into the wrong hands.
Well, exactly. Well, we're hurtling towards something called the singularity. And that is where, machines are the equivalent of humans. Some say as little as 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, but there will be a singularity when we're redundant.
No, we'll never be redundant. Rhonda, you've got a question.
Yes. Hi, thank you for being here.
Hi, Rhonda.
I'm in the United States,
Yeah.
near Los Angeles, and I was a high school teacher for 9 years. And I know that students learn differently. So I can see where there's a strength of using AI for most of the students, but there's always going to be students who don't do well with computerized, pre-recorded lessons and, interacting with the computer. They need more of the human touch.
Yeah.
And what I find here in the States is there's not a big love for regulation. There's a huge love for business.
Yeah, exactly.
Feeding Wall Street, but not so much for the human touch and the concern of our interactions, which for me is essential for having humans doing the work. So how can we prevent those students with the greatest needs, ones in special ed, from falling through the cracks as AI takes over? Because what I'm finding is those things don't just become another option, they become the standard that's offered by the school districts, for everybody. They're trying to fit, the square peg into the round hole for all the kids. And I'm so concerned for the special ed kids. So can you talk a little bit on that?
Well, wherever we are in the part of the world we're in, we struggle with resources. We struggle with having enough money, enough time to be able to put into it, and especially with special ed. But I can see it working particularly well with special ed. I can see that being a special case in that things can be tailored so much easier to them. Now, it can still be delivered by a human being, but you can tailor it to that student. It'd be easier for AI to work out what that student, the analytics of that student's performance would dictate the pace that they learn at. And it can still be delivered by a human, but the fact that the analytics are there would help. especially with that group, I think. So I think it can all be adapted. And I agree with you. We don't want our children sat in front of a computer being taught, do we? We don't want it. The human interaction is important. So I would say the best way is we use AI to take away all the burdens from teachers. Right? I've got friends who are teachers, and they can spend hours doing admin. There's all this stuff they've got to do, all the emails they've got to deal with, all the marking they've got to do, and everything else. Right? AI can take all that repetitive task away. If it's repetitive, and if it's text heavy, and you know that you could teach another person to take that away from you, then in that case, AI can take it away from you. You don't need to do it anymore. It's done for you. The few emails that you have to deal with. So you go into school in the morning, you might have 20 emails. Well, when you've finished all the 20 emails, maybe there's one you need to action, maybe there's two. But if AI is in charge, you'll only have those two to action, because the others have been actioned. They've all been answered. Right? They've been answered in your voice. Yeah, we answer that. When are we going on? When are we going on this trip? When's the end of term? When's this? When's that? When's the sort of messages you get? You don't have to answer any of them. They're all answered for you. Yeah. All the marks automatically in there. You know, you don't have to mark them. Right? It will grade. It will mark, and it will show where you are. Even if you're in the middle of a term, you'll know exactly where all the children are, exactly where they are, who's doing well, who isn't doing well, and you'll see someone slightly dropping off if you hadn't noticed, but they've been dropping off slowly. You see the difference. You can make interaction. So I see it working in that way. I'm scared for it if we don't change the way we teach. Yeah, with content overload. I think we need to be smart and clever. I think educators need to think, how can we use this? But freeing up teachers is terrific, because if we take 2 or 3 hours away from a teacher where they're doing admin, and I'm sure it's the same in the States as it is here, it's admin heavy, take that away from the teacher. What a teacher should be doing is teaching. So let's do that. Let's do that. I'm doing it with charities. I'm freeing up charities. Yeah, charities can go and they can deliver their service to their end user, instead of having to deal with a pylon of emails and phone calls that they don't need, because AI can deal with them. And it's like a bit like triage. Find out what's the problem, and is it a problem we can deal with, or can you put a plaster on yourself, or can you just go home and stop wasting our time? And AI can do that for us. It can be the gatekeeper. The worrying side is that we still have to have human oversight and intervention. Otherwise, it's the Wild West again. Yeah, that's the worry. Governments have to come down on this and set rules and regulations. You use this in education. Education is allowed this, it's allowed that. It can't have this, and set the parameters. So really, it's the ethics of it, isn't it? You've got to integrate ethics and have responsible AI in the curriculum. Okay?
I think that's true. The ethics really seems to be challenged the most, right? The ethics. I don't know what the business schools here are teaching, but I mean, I hope that's a requirement to get your degree as an ethics course.
Well, yeah.
Because I'm finding, just to cut budgets, the corporate publicly funded charter schools here, which are increasing in size, they'll put kids on computers and have a teacher's aide supervising who's under the supervision of a teacher. So they're trying to cut corners, like just to the bare minimal, and I just see that as very troubling as a teacher who used to be in the rich environment of a classroom full of students. I find it really disturbing. But thank you. Thank you.
I think we have to help students understand the potential biases and limitations and ethical implications of AI systems. They need to know this, right? Because as Ian said, his children, they're just piling in on there, and they don't see the ethical implications. They don't see the potential biases or the problems of having it. And it's a, yeah, AI is going to be in various domains, including education, and we're going to have to accept it, and we are going to have to put limitations on it. But we have to tell the children, we have to tell our children of the dangers of it. They've got to question more than they are now. Stop accepting. Eh?
Yeah.
It does worry me that it won't be, that the governments won't do anything about it. I think
one of the problems is the governments perhaps won't do anything about it fast enough.
Yeah.
And that's one thing. Anastasia, hopefully that half answered your question from the chat. What skills should I teach my children? How the learning process will look like? I don't think we know, but I think we've got to prepare them to be flexible. Is the bottom line. Jenny, you've got a hand up.
I just want to say that my hand's not working, so
Okay,
I have
Sarah.
got a question.
Yeah, okay. We'll come to you in a minute, Sarah.
Yeah,
Jenny,
yeah, that's fine.
Jenny next, please.
Is mine working? Can
Yes,
you
it
hear me?
is. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to deal with these two very interesting situations. Such an interesting topic, this, and there seems to be such brilliance in what it can do. My background obviously is education, and now more on well-being educating. And so I'm really interested in how we can introduce more, well, I suppose it is more awareness, more alertness to the children in parallel to what they require to know with the AI. Do you ever see that merging together in any way, or is it either as a subject or in subjects, or is this about educating the teachers in the first place? I mean, because for me at the moment, the education system seems to be very much, in the UK, this is very much full of not lacking in creativity. It's do this, get that, and then there's the blame bit that if you haven't got it, it's right or it's wrong. They're not showing that actually the wrongness can be the strongness, because it creates awareness, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I've taught you this, now tell me why I've taught you.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, which is just stupid for all the reasons that actually they can just Google what they need to know in the factual way. But what it can't do, I guess, is AI. And is there any way they can increase their consciousness, for want of a better word, that gets them thinking about creating, being more of them, not actually somebody else?
Yeah.
Interesting. Jenny, Bob, can I handle that one in a minute?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Because this is right up my street.
It's right. Not mine.
I'm just going to go over to Sarah and
Yeah, sure.
listen to her question, please. But I'll come back to yours, Jenny.
Well, I had two, but I've got this one's a bit off the subject. I watched Star Wars, The Clones, and I just wondered if this is another way the government is going to build up their armies, alongside all the Chinese with their technology and everything like that. But the other one is I work with people with learning disability and challenging behaviour who need hands-on people. How will it affect them?
Yeah, well, to answer the second one first, because I'm not qualified to answer the first one. I think there are certainly some governments in the world that might look at it for a source of evil, but hopefully the ones we live in have got a bit more sense. But the second part, I think what you're saying there is, I think I'd already answered it earlier when I said if you take away a lot of the admin that teachers have to do, that leaves them more time, especially with special ed, because you're taking away all of their admin duties.
Okay.
They'll have you'll have 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at the end of the day. You don't need to do it. If you can, Sarah, if it's something that you know that you can train a person. If you had an intern came in, right, and you know that you could train them to do all that and take it away from you, then AI can do it, and they can do it now. You haven't got to wait for that to happen. As long as it's something you know you can train someone, and as long as it involves something that's reasonably I would say text heavy, then it's not difficult to design a system that will take all that burden away from you. And you're in control of the filters for it as well. So one day you could say, no, I want all the questions that are regarding the end of term party, whatever it is. I want all those questions, and they will come through to you, and you'll answer them yourself. Right? You can say, right, I'm going away now for 2 weeks. Answer all my questions. Answer all of them. Okay, it's quite capable of doing it in the same way the person is, because you are actually setting the boundaries yourself. It can't go off and do something that you haven't told it. In some ways, it's better than having a human, in that it won't use its own initiative. It will do what you have instructed it to do. So obviously, it's still got the rubbish in, rubbish out that we've always had, but providing you train it properly, it'll be there, and all those parameters can be set. No limit to it. So hopefully, and what I'm hoping is it will free up. The same way as I'm working with charities to free them up, I'm hoping the teachers can be freed up. Why should they be doing admin that anyone can do when their specialist skill is teaching? They should be teaching. They should be doing admin. Someone else, AI should be doing it.
Oh, thank you.
Which actually leads us very nicely back to Jenny's question about what should we be doing in education? And perhaps the answer is yes, we should be working much more on developing the life skills of the children than teaching them pure academics. Now, those who know me realize that I'm just about to get on my soapbox. Or in fact, I'm just about to get on my three-legged stool, because I envisage the education system, certainly in UK and probably in many other countries as well, as a three-legged stool, which is balanced precariously on one leg, and that leg is academia. The other two legs, stumps, broken, whatever, are preparation for life and preparation for work. And without those two, you do not have a stable education system. And so, armed with a life skills program, which we do have at Noble Manhattan Coaching, we can encourage organizations to develop these life skills. And we have managed to survive 45 minutes of this without using two core words here. One is subjectivity and the other is objectivity. Now, AI is objective because it thinks as it's been told to think. It has no emotion. It has no ability to effectively to think outside of the box. Well, perhaps it will have, but it doesn't have that human emotional interface. And that is really, really important, and which is why I believe and strongly believe that humans will be forever required, but perhaps in a slightly different role. Perhaps we should now be considering the those two additional legs of an of an education stool becoming more and more important, because that is where the human interface comes. It's often, I've often wondered, and certainly recently, why we teach trigonometry in maths, why we teach simultaneous equations. Mathematicians will tell me that it's because we do. The thing about maths is it's actually teaching us how to solve problems. But why trigonometry? We don't need to know about sines and cosines these days, unless, of course, you're going into engineering or something like that. But do you need that for GCSE? Do you need that for 16-year exams? Dubious. But on the other hand, we did used to need to know that, because that's how maps were made. And of course, you go back into the 15, 16, 1700s, and that is where triangles were really, really important, because working from a baseline, you could map entire countries. And perhaps that is why we are still teaching trigonometry, although people use it, trigonometry, and every day they don't realize they're using it. But that's how GPS works. It's trigonometry. It's just that, you know, distances are measured in time rather than in meters. And so it's all about trigonometry, but it's all done by computers. It can all be done by AI. So perhaps we don't need to know that, or we need to know where to go and find the information. And the other thing I just want to come back to is Sarah's comment about what if all armies become autonomous, or automatons, should I say, rather than autonomous. My background is Royal Navy, and I did the staff course. And this is one of the questions that we were asking in the 1990s. You know, the automatic battlefield, which is fine until such times as all the automatons have killed each other. And the point has still yet to be made. And humans will come back into it. That is what the decision was then. And probably that is what the decision is now. So it just adds another level of warfare.
I was thinking, however, sorry, go on.
Yeah, Jenny, come on in.
Yes. You mentioned the word human there, and I think that is just exactly it. When we're human beings, as distinct from the AI, which is artificial intelligence. So, and that can only be as good as the people who've actually put it in the first place. So again, the same thing. So there's that, and I think where with the youngsters and indeed the adults, we start with those first because they're going to have an influence on the ulcers. It's about this self-mastery of not thinking but being in a question. Because when you're thinking, you're usually only thinking about the things you've already been told or read. Whereas when you're choosing a question and going, okay, what else is there here that we haven't looked at yet? What is it that this is? What awareness am I having? Using those, which are kind of questions that aren't really being answered, but they do open up a vacuum for something else to come in that probably we haven't perceived because we're not getting an answer, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense.
Long
live coaches.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's what I'm thinking. Self-mastery, isn't it? This is, but you know, the aim is within the education, and an education we have, obviously it's imperative. We think of it as being schools and colleges. But actually, we're still all educating the guys, everybody. It's lovely to see everyone here. So many people that are joining, you know, this Bob's, you know, thing, as it were, which is wonderful. You know, we're still looking to educate ourselves. There is this constant requirement to expand our own information or our own way of being in whatever area we're specialised in. And I just would love to think how that could happen within. You know, within the education system in the broadest sense, because you see all these youngsters, the teenagers, they've got nowhere to go, and you know, all the terrible things they do to each other. I'm not saying they're all curable. Some people will, some will. But the thing is that when there's no process to go to, if they're being processed in school and the creativity is being stuck out and they can't achieve that, whatever that is, you're shut. Your box. The system is boxing them in. And I guess with Bob, I can see absolutely great things for AI, absolutely, and it absolutely has its place. It's just getting that balance, isn't it, before educating people on it to allow them to be them and to not buy into this reality, which is saying, do this, get that, always being in that question.
Yes,
so
I think you're right. Yeah.
So, I don't know.
And
anyway,
I think
somebody I'm sure have a thing.
Yeah,
Thank you, Colette.
The more that we work together,
yeah, absolutely,
to promote the message, the louder we can be.
Yeah,
you know, it's a classic case of the whole is greater than some of the parts. Sonia, you've been waiting very patiently.
That's fine. Okay, I just wanted it's a two-pronged question. One is the curriculum currently preparing the child for the jobs of the future, where over 50% will have disappeared by the time they leave high school, let alone university, and the impact of AI on the types of jobs that will be available? And then the second part of the question is, where is our focus, our AI focus? Because as Generation Z or X and others, we are upskilling and retraining, and so most of our focus is on doing that and actually still trying to lead and working in the new normal. Whereas Gen Z and millennials, they've got a different outlook. So their focus is on, are they creating jobs, you know, around sustainability, climate change? What is it that they're focused on in building businesses of the future? And are the curriculum matching what this is the focus for these youngsters? I hope that makes sense.
Wow.
Great question. Great
Okay.
question.
Absolutely. I'm almost hoping they're rhetorical, actually, because I don't think we know the answer. But I think we can guess. You know, my two penneth here is that we need to prepare our young to be adaptable, because the world is changing ever faster. We can't tell, you know, our crystal balls are broken. They broke a long time ago. I don't even think AI can ask that question, because I don't think AI can look into the future in that way. But to a certain extent, and yeah, I've got two teenagers, and I'm sure that by the time they get to university, well, certainly by the time they leave university, there'll be a huge number of different jobs that we haven't even thought about, as is the case. But are we training them to do that? Perhaps we you know, perhaps, as Bob has indicated, there's an awful lot of the objectivity side of education that we no longer need to learn, because what we need to do is learn where to find it. And if it's a case of the Star Trek, press the button on your chest and the answer comes forth, well, so be it. But the emotional side of things, as Rhonda has talked about as well, it is about, you know, those are the things that are lacking in education at the moment.
It's curiosity as well, isn't it? Ian?
Absolutely, it's curiosity. But if we can invoke that curiosity, if we can invoke the ability to cope with life, I'm not convinced that all of them can, but they're going to have to be so adaptable. And I think that's perhaps the case. They've got to be ready to flip from one direction into another. They've got to be ready to critically analyze situations. You know, perhaps English or whichever the main language is in any country should be determined communication or critical thinking or something like that, because those are the subjects that actually people need, in my mind, people need to be involved in.
Well, I think the disruptor is going to be is that these are now dead. Okay, these are old tech, and the only reason we've still got these is because the companies that make them make an absolute fortune on them. Otherwise, these are gone now. They're old hats. We've moved on from that, and the next thing is going to be wearables. You're going to wear them. When it might be on the wrist, but it might be just in your clothes. It could be anywhere, and we'll have our own little AI ego, which goes out and does everything for us. Our own little avatar, and it would go out and do all our bookings for us. It knows all about us, knows how we like to travel, knows what hotels we stay in, knows when everybody's birthday is, sends cards and messages for you, can do anything. That's here now. We can do that.
Absolutely, we can do it. But how much do we? How much pleasure do we get from somebody else doing those things that we like to do for other people?
I think we'll only do it if we're sold it. If we're sold it as a product, and giant corporations can make a fortune at it, then it will become a thing. But the technology is available to do it. But like all tech companies, and how can we make maximum profit at the moment? It's through turning these things out, which cost about $20 to make and sell them to you for £1,000. So that's why we have this. That's why we have this tech. but it's quite capable of moving at a much faster rate. As soon as the billionaires work out how they can make trillions out of it, then we'll be sold it, we'll be packaged it and sold it. And that will then change our lives, because people like new stuff and they like new tech, and that will dictate how we go into the future.
Can I just say, I think you're absolutely right. Sorry, about the energy of all this, because the energy is, all this is going into our bodies, which is causing endless problems, because we're buying into it and therefore think there's no other way. That's my concern with children and actually adults as well, because I see a lot of clients and things who have all got, this is how it has to be, because that's what, for all the reasons you just said, Bob, and it's actually quite alarming that it's going to go more so. It's that they're living by that. I mean, I've got an 11-year-old granddaughter who's still on her phone, you know, is beginning to be on her phone more than usual, whether it's, obviously it'll move on, but it is just this energy that we're not really aware of almost, and we're kind of stymieing our bodies, which is causing the diseases as well, because we're rigid, they're becoming rigid and not expansive. So the molecules are sort of fiddling about and, you know, going to the weak areas and causing more illness. So I don't know how that all correlates with AI, but it is restrictions.
I think it stops creativity as well.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
So it stifles creativity.
Yeah,
It's very
sorry. Yeah, thank you. Apologise, I jumped in.
Right. Okay, no worries, Sarah.
I was just going to ask about the elderly as well, because I've worked with the elderly. How's it going to affect the elderly who can't really take on that technology?
No, but they can. But they can be supported by the technology.
Yeah, they can be supported, but mentally to keep them going, because by keeping the mind going stops them from.
I'm sure there will always be ways of keeping the mind going.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We're running short of time. I'd just like to sort of become a bit more positive.
On
this. No, that's okay. Because
can I just interject very quickly on that?
Of course you can.
Virtual reality for the elderly. You can take them back. You can take them back to when they were kids. They can walk down their old street.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's
they can walk down their own street, and they can go and providing there's photographs, and even better if there's video, they can go back. With virtual reality, you can even meet old loved ones.
Oh, that's nice.
Virtually, so maybe that's something. So it's all technically possible.
Well, that's positive, isn't it? That's lovely.
Well, here's another positive one that I saw this week, and that was a case of what jobs are there going to be available in the future. We've already harked on this, and one of the things that was mentioned was life coaching. Which I thought was absolutely wonderful. I mean, it was seriously mentioned, you know, as one of them. I don't even think counselling got mentioned, so there you go. But it's a case that these subjective aspects, and that's why I'm bringing the word again, these subjective aspects are going to be the things that AI is not going to be able to cope with for a very long time. So anywhere where we're talking about human creativity, the sixth sense, you know, the deep listening that we coaches invoke, the questioning, questioning is one thing, but very often, as we find as being coaches, we think, hang on a minute, there's something else going on here. I'm not quite sure which, so I will ask a particular question. Now, AI is not going to be able to pick up that sense in the room because it's objective. And so, therefore, perhaps we are going to be more emotionally aware. Perhaps this is where the next generation of jobs is coming from. We're going to be supporting each other. And we're going to need it, I think, to a certain extent.
Us against them.
Perception, isn't it? It's about, can you hear me? Perception.
Yeah.
Yes, totally. And surely, I don't know, Bob honestly, I am not digital, because I am one of the older generations, so therefore I am very digitally unaware in a lot of many aspects. But you know, that the AI can't really do that. As you say, it does all the things, that the mundane stuff, but it's when it tries starting to control my apprehension, my thing, my perception is that the way we're going is people are believing, and the children are educated in such a way they're believing that that's the only way forward, because it's very tangible, because it's there in their faces, whereas the untangible isn't. And you're perceiving, you're teaching them to perceive.
Well, AI is good at mirroring. It will mirror. Okay.
Yeah.
So-
Okay. Thank you.
It can mirror something, and it can mimic something.
Right.
Okay? So,
But he can't necessarily develop a rapport
No.
quite so much.
no.
Right.
Where are we going from here, Ian? I'm longing to know that. Tell us what the next bit is from this. 'Cause
Well,
this is
that's funny you
exciting.
should-
I think you
Funny you should
started.
say that, because I was just about to, a bit of a light bulb. I had wondered whether there was a need to continue on from here. And I think there probably is. So we're not planning to have a meeting in August because a lot of people go away on holiday and other things like that. But and I think I've got September booked, I've got October booked, but let's look again in November, and let's bring AI back into the argument and see how things are developed in 6 months' time. Because I think it's hugely important, particularly when we're talking about how is this going to affect our children, and also perhaps what we can learn from our children.
Absolutely.
And that's not just the children in our own families, but the children around us, the children with whom we are involved, whether it be in school, whether it be in therapy, wherever. Let's open this bag and see what we can learn. And the more we can work together and to develop and to learn, the better off we're going to be, and perhaps the whole world is going to be, as we can take this forward.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Right.
So I'm going to stop recording.
It's
Thank
equal.
you. Thank you.